So joining us now for more on this development is Sabrina Singh, former Deputy Press Secretary for the Pentagon. Sabrina, good to see you again. So President Trump says that he's got a plan to end the war in Ukraine, but he's declined to share details. Should all of these negotiations happen behind closed doors, which would be a break from Trump's usual tactics, really, or would more transparency help them?
Well, look, I think transparency is always important and important for the process that's going to play out. What's concerning is the continued ongoing conversations with President Putin. And as far as I know, I haven't even seen a readout of that call, just that the president did confirm that he spoke with Vladimir Putin. And I think what's extremely concerning here is that we're continuing to see these conversations happen in a one-sided silo with Ukraine not at the table. At the end of the day, this is about Ukraine's sovereign territory. It is up to Ukraine to decide how they negotiate and what a negotiation and possible deal might look like. It is their sovereign territory that was invaded by Russia nearly 2 years ago. So I think it's important to have transparency about the process. Of course, there's going to be conversations that play out behind closed doors. But again, Ukraine is not part of these conversations, and that's what's deeply concerning here.
And look, to that point exactly, Trump has repeatedly said he would find a way to end the war. Is there any indication from the Trump administration that Ukraine will have a say in this deal, as the Biden administration emphasized? And does a peace deal require dividing up Ukraine's rare minerals and natural gas potentially?
Well, I think you saw Donald Trump come in and he said that he was going to end the war on day one. So that's clearly that timeline has passed. Look, I think it's important to emphasize that while the United States can have a role in brokering a peace deal for Ukraine, it has to be up to Ukraine to decide the fate of its country and its citizens. It is its sovereign territory that was invaded in 2022. So again, while it's important that the United States is part of these conversations and engaging on sides, it is ultimately up to Ukraine to decide what their victory looks like and how they decide what deal goes forward for their own people.
So in a powerful New York Times op-ed that's out today, former Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes said that Trump appears to be an aging strongman looking to cement his legacy, while the stripping of USAID may have other nations looking to China for steadier global leadership. How critical, Sabrina, is the expression of soft power for American interests around the world? Is the kind of strength that Trump projects actually going to weaken the U.S. and our national security?
Well, it's incredibly important to have soft power and be that be part of our national security interests. I mean, foreign assistance is critical to U.S. national security. And this administration came in on the idea and the platform that they're going to put America first. Well, when you're fighting diseases all around the world, like in Uganda, where you have an Ebola outbreak, you can either fight and inoculate against Ebola in Uganda, or you can do it in New York City. And we saw what happened in 2014, and we don't want some of those diseases to come over to the United States. That's why we have partners like USAID working all around the world. And it's not just that. I mean, you're seeing countries like Russia and the PRC celebrate the fact that this administration is dismantling USAID because they're going to use this vacuum right now and go into countries and form these strategic partnerships with these nations that we are leaving on the table. So while this administration came in on the idea of America first, you're actually weakening our entire global standing on the world stage, and you're putting us last.
Let me get specific to Gaza, because doctors say the funding freezes and these stop work orders, they're going to cost the lives of patients receiving life-saving care. The plan to reduce USAID itself would reduce a workforce of thousands globally to just a few hundred. Will these sacrifices Trump wants to make come back to haunt him, and do the actions specific to Gaza serve his desire to control the real estate of Gaza?
It is very unclear to me what the plan is for Gaza. I am still struggling and trying to understand what this administration is indicating when it says that the United States is going to have a role in taking over the Gaza Strip and what that looks like, but not committing U.S. forces. And then again, you're talking about resources that are going to be expended to develop the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, Americans here at home, gas prices are high. Egg prices, as you know, and you've covered, are incredibly high right now. So again, I'm confused on what the actual plan is for Gaza. I think, look, when you're dismantling an organization like USAID, something that has provided life-saving care, not just in Gaza, but in Sudan, that is weakening our position on the world stage, and frankly, not in America's interest to do so. So I'm still looking for more details on what's going to come out of this administration and its plan for Gaza when you don't even have Arab partners and allies bought in on this so-called plan that was presented, just a few days ago.
Yeah, and my question is, when Trump says Israel's going to give Gaza to the United States, I'm like, what's behind all that? Anyway, let's move to President Trump having revoked the security clearances of former President Biden and several more perceived enemies this week, including Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, also New York Attorney General Letitia James. What's your reaction to that? And do continued threats from Iran on high-profile U.S. officials, does that warrant for, say, President Biden keeping his access to the security briefings?
Look, presidents can request presidents' daily briefings. It's something that, that they have that authority to do. I think the revoking of national security clearances, I mean, this is just getting to pettiness and to folks that are still in those roles and in those jobs. I mean, you're weakening their capability to be aware of threats that are impacting the communities that they represent. I think what's important, again, is that taking away these security clearances, I don't understand how that's making our nation more safe, how that's lowering the price of gas, how that's lowering the price of eggs, how you're strengthening our economy. Again, Donald Trump came in on this idea and this platform that he's going to put America first, that he's going to somehow change our image domestically and internationally. And right now we're seeing that slowly being shredded away. So it's deeply concerning that he's using his time as president to take away security clearances for those who some are not even in office anymore. I would personally like to see this president more focused on some of the domestic impacts and, of course, the national security implications that his policies are degrading on the world stage.
Okay, Sabrina Singh, thank you much. We will see you again.